Elizabeth, Illinois is a small town in the northwest corner of Joe Davis County. It has a population of about 700 people and was founded in 1868. The town has seen many businesses come and go, but one business has been around the last 83 years. It is called the Elizabeth Garage, and the Graves family has owned it since 1925. The Elizabeth Garage is the heart of Elizabeth and is a very big contributor to the community. The Graves family plays a huge role in the town and are active members in the community.
As a business like this hardly ever exists in a small town, and it's an incredible resource for the people here in Elizabeth and the surrounding community. We're able to bring our car here anytime, day or night. The service is incredible, and I depend on it.
The Elizabeth Garage is one of the 2 or 3 top providers of sales tax revenue for the village.
The garage has been handed down to 4 generations. They have encountered some problems throughout the years. Since the establishment of the Elizabeth Garage, they have had 2 major fires. On December 28, 1924 at 3 a.m., the town of Elizabeth was awoken by the ringing of a fire alarm and the smell of smoke. The Elizabeth Garage was on fire. The sky was lit with flames 75 feet high, which could be seen from miles away. The shouts of men and the roar of exploding gasoline tanks filled the air that morning, with the temperatures reading 20 below. The cause of the fire is still a mystery, however, they did have some idea how it started. It may have been caused by the heating plant or by crossed wires. There were 32 cars in the garage when it burned, and they were all destroyed along with all the parts in the storage room. It was the most destructive fire in the town since 1887. Donald Bullard and Leslie Graves purchased the burnt-out shell from Charles Vanderheiden and Ross Logan. On December 21, 1925, Leslie and Agnes Graves assumed full ownership of the garage for $8,000.
My parents bought the building in April of 1925, and it had been burnt down in December of 1924. We've owned it, been in the family ever since then. Bought it as a burnt out shell, and they built it back up to what it was before it burned this last time.
They had 2 children, a daughter Jane and a son Jack. When the Graves started the business, they did not just sell cars. They sold Oliver tractors and Oakland automobiles, now Pontiac. There are even records that show how the Elizabeth Garage traded cars for horses, cows, and even a donkey.
In the early years, in the 50s and that, you had to go get your cars. And they had a warehouse in Chicago. It was at 1024 South Wabash, is where you picked them up. And we'd get on the dinky train down here Friday nights and go into Chicago and get the cars. And we'd get in there about 11 o'clock, and we'd take a taxi over there and pick up. And sometimes we got 2, and sometimes we only got 1. And we'd drive them back out of Chicago. And the first nights when I went in with my mother, I was quite small for my age at that time, and I had a little thing with a pillow and blanket in it so I could see over the steering wheel. And this man brought the 2 cars down, and he said to my mother, "Lady," he says, "who's going to drive that other car?" She says, "My son here." "Lady, you ain't going to leave that little fella drive that car, are you?" "Yeah," she said, "he'll drive that car." "Oh, lady, I don't believe I'd leave that little fella drive that car. He's too small," he said. But we got out of there all right. Made quite a few trips that way. So.
The business has been in the same location since its establishment. They did, however, buy the farmer's hatchery in exchange, which later they turned a portion of it into a new and used car lot. On May 13, 1945, Leslie died at a young age of 41. Agnes then assumed full ownership of the garage. She was only one of 3 women in the state of Illinois who owned a dealership at the time. After World War II in 1947, their daughter Jane Graves, Specht, and her husband Marlowe became part of the staff. Jack Graves began working at the body shop on July 14, 1958, after returning from serving in the Navy. He spent his first 9 years working at the body shop. In 1967, Marlowe left the dealership after being elected Joe Davis County Sheriff. The business was incorporated that same year on June 27, 1967, with Agnes Graves as president, Jack Graves as vice president, and Jane Specht as secretary-treasurer. Jack Graves married Jeanette Albright on December 26, 1955, and on May 1, 1977, Jeanette Graves joined the crew.
we were only 19 when we got married. Grandpa called from California and he said, "Do you want to get married?" I said, "Sure." So we got married then. I started May 1st of 1967. I remember that this was in the old garage. I walked in and there was a whole bunch of typing to do.
Jack and Jeanette had 4 children. They had 2 daughters, Jennifer and Julie, and 2 sons, Jay and Jeff. Like their father, Jay and Jeff also joined the Navy. After returning home from the Navy in 1981, Jay started working at the garage, followed by Jeff in 1983. Jay became the new and used car sales manager and Jeff the service manager.
My job at the Elizabeth Garage as a part owner is I'm the sales manager, new car and used cars. So I sell new cars and I sell used cars. I'm the financial manager also, so I do all the bookkeeping, all the way from scratch to the financial statement that we got to turn in every month to GM since we're a franchise dealer.
On March 16, 1984, Jeff and Jay purchased Jane's share of the business as a result of her retirement. Jack then became the president, Jeff the vice president, and Jay the secretary-treasurer of the corporation. On May 11, 2005, at 1:33 a.m., the town of Elizabeth was awoken by another fire.
The night of the fire, well, we of course were in bed sleeping, and we heard this knock, knock, knock so hard on our door. And I jumped out of bed and I said, and Matt was at the door. I said, "Matt, what's wrong?" He said, "The garage is on fire."
The Elizabeth Garage was a blaze of flames once again. This time, US 20 was shut down until 5 a.m. Many fire departments had stormed to the scene to help.
And we stayed through the night, and the big fire trucks were all over, on all the streets. There were 7 fire departments here, but nobody got hurt.
5 vehicles were destroyed in the garage, including the wrecker, along with family history of pictures and articles that were on display in the lobby. Just like before, the cause was unknown, but it was most likely electrical in nature. The Gray's family did not waste any time. That same day, they started setting up a temporary office in a building they owned on the same block. They used the body shop to continue service on vehicles. A week later, they were cleaning up the remains of the old building and making the plans to rebuild. After 4 generations, they were not going to just give up on the family business. There was no doubt in their minds that they would rebuild and that the Elizabeth Garage would continue.
It was kind of a sad situation, but I don't believe that any time through the whole thing or the next day or weeks after, I didn't ever think about not building it.
After the remains were cleared, Jeff and the rest of the crew started working where the garage had stood. With no roof or no walls, they called it the open-air garage.
I pretty much designed the new building on the back of a plain piece of paper. I drew it out and said this is how I kind of want the building to look.
The rebuilding process started on October 3rd, 2005 and was finally completed by April 5th, 2006. The garage is now bigger and better than ever.
Future, it's hard to predict, but there is definitely a future for the Elizabeth Garage. We're lean and mean. We don't have a lot of overhead. We're a small dealership. We try to give a good service for a reasonable price. We try to sell cars at a reasonable price, and I think a lot of people respect that part of it.
The Elizabeth Garage has risen from the ashes of devastating fires both in 1924 and 2005. They have come a long ways from selling the tractors of yesterday to the cars of today. There have been many changes along the way as the automobile industry has revolutionized. Even though the people that work there may have changed, along with the building, the Elizabeth Garage has continued to provide a friendly service at a fair price. The Grace family continues to play a vital role in the continuity of Elizabeth. They will continue to succeed based on their honesty and loyalty to their customers. The Elizabeth Garage has faced many obstacles, but it has continued to grow and advance with the changing world.
Little GTO, you really looking fine. 3 deuces and a 4-speed and a 389. Listen to her tacking up now. Listen to her whine. Come on, turn it on, wind it up low and